Sanbanani Dumelang, Tawelalikai Lina Lagaki Nukumukovi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are a returning subscriber, you're the real MVP. Thank you so much. And if you're a newbie or you've watched before but still haven't subscribed, guys, we're on a mission. Please hit that button and let's go. Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my journey as a speech therapist, but also just this notion of being too old to start over again. Because I found that after posting my video on my journey to med school, and if you haven't watched it, please check it out. I've had people sending me messages or commenting, saying things like, I want to study this and I want to do that. Do you think I'm too old? And when I get that kind of question posed at me, I want to kind of say, who am I to tell you that you are too old to study? Who am I? I'm not God. I can't determine the plans for your life. So, these are very personal things that people need to decide for themselves, and also just to know that there is a fabricated timeline that society has put out there. I don't know if they base it maybe on the female body, thinking that, there's a timeline in which you can have children, and if you're over a certain age, it's more difficult and all of those things. But honestly, guys, let's not be caught in this peer pressure that we've literally prescribed to a lot of the time subconsciously about when you're supposed to do certain things in your life. I know personally, if I had subscribed to that, I would not be where I am today. And so just my encouragement to you, you're on your own journey, you're on your own timeline. Nobody can tell you when it's too late. You will know, you'll feel it. So getting into my speech therapy journey. So I applied for speech therapy at one university, and literally that's the only thing I wanted to do. So I applied for speech therapy as my first option. My second option was for education, so teaching. I got accepted for both. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this application thing is a breeze. You just send in one application and you get accepted. But obviously, if you've watched my other video, you'll know that that is not always the case. It can be a very humbling journey trying to get into university. So anyway, I get in, and I really, really, really wanted to do speech therapy because it was literally a package of everything that I saw myself doing in future. So working with kids and doing language, teaching language, speaking languages, and I was also on a mission to learn new languages, which I did. You also have to be creative, you doing crafts, you're making books and coloring in and, home programs, all these things that require creativity. And I also wanted something that was health related. So in the medical field, but not medicine. And speech therapy really had all of that, because feeding and swallowing challenges are usually with quite ill patients in the wards. And so that is very medical. So anyway, I get into this degree, I prayed for it, and it's like a miracle that you actually get in, because they literally only accepted 25 people in my year. I don't know what it looks like these days, but only 25 people got in. And you can imagine that is a very small number if you think of other degrees. For example, even in medicine, they accept 300 people. So 25 is a very small number. It's a very elite group. And so obviously I was like, oh, I'm part of the chosen, this is great. But things started getting tricky, and please note that this video may or may not be a little bit triggering in some aspects. There are things that I had to work through, that I'm still working through regarding my journey as a speech therapist. And I'm going to talk about some of those things today, because it is part of my healing journey as well. So I get into class and I'm the only Black person who got accepted. Now, in our Rainbow Nation, I think that is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable, and I hope that they've changed their policies, that they don't have this quota system anymore. Because I know there is a way that they calculate, how many people from which race and which ethnicity, whatever it is, get in. But there was one Black person, one colored, one Indian, and the rest were white. So I'm like, okay, let's go. We're here to study, let's go. The problem started now when you're sitting in class and some of the lecturers, and this is not everyone, but some of the lecturers would start talking, will start teaching in Afrikaans. And this is an English medium academic institution. Well, my degree was supposed to be given in English. And they're speaking in Afrikaans and they don't translate to English. And then they'd switch back to English and then they would switch to Afrikaans, and you kind of caught, in these patches of darkness where, I understand some Afrikaans, but not on a kind of academic learning level, I can speak some Afrikaans, but not on that level. So you're sitting here in class and then you'll get some lecturers who would literally give you notes in Afrikaans and say, ask your Afrikaans friends to translate for you. And that was absolutely mind-boggling, that why does this responsibility, this learning responsibility, have to be shifted to my classmates? That doesn't make sense. Anyway, we carry on. There are other things that happen in between, being forced to give therapy in Afrikaans. Sometimes you'd get like other African patients who'd come to our department for assessments, and they would call me and say, hey, you speak an African language, please come translate. I get there, the child speaks Xhosa or Zulu, and I don't know a word of Xhosa and Zulu. I do now, but back then I'm Sepedi speaking, so I'm like, wait, at least bring me like a Tswana speaking child. This is like completely off. I know how to greet, but that's as far as we go. So there were these minor things that were like very triggering for me, very unacceptable, honestly. But I just kind of soldiered on and made it through my degree. The whole degree, there were these things that were just creeping up, but I was like, you know what, it's fine, I'm gonna make it. The worst part was that I didn't finish my degree in record time. I took 5 years instead of 4 years, and I had found out, this is crazy, and I'm not even sure if I should be saying this or not, but I found out that apparently if you're Black in the degree, you don't finish in record time. And this is like from my second year that I heard this, and I was like, that's ridiculous. I'm definitely finishing this degree in record time. I'm not going to be a statistic. Lo and behold, I didn't finish in record time, and I was like, no, surely there are other Black people who finished in record time. And there are some, but there are also a lot of us who didn't. And I think it has a lot to do, there are a lot of factors that could have contributed to it, but I'm not going to play it small and say that the racial issue didn't play a role, because it really does. When you're in a practical and you find that lecturers can't even make eye contact with you, you are 5 people in the prac and they can look at number 1 and 2, you're number 3, and their eyes are darting between 1, 2, 4, 5, and it's, you feel those things so personally. But anyway, I finished my degree, got out, graduated, started working. It was amazing. Working was just, it really wasn't a nightmare, because I felt like I could actually apply the knowledge I had gained in my own way. When you're studying, there's certain tests that you do even with patients that they call standardized tests, which for our populations in the government hospitals usually don't work, because the tests are either American standardized tests, or the ones that were in Afrikaans, our populations are, well, the ones that I was seeing, the people I was seeing were speaking Sepedi, Setswana, Zulu. Yeah, those are the three main languages. And then obviously every now and then there'd be English. But in the communities that I worked in the townships, in the rural areas, there was, I mean, when I worked in rural KZN, there was literally only Zulu. And I didn't speak a word of Zulu, but because I was there, I had to learn the language, because how are you going to be a language therapist and not give therapy in the people's language if you are in their community? You know what I'm saying? So then that's how I learned Zulu, which is great for me because I love languages. I love languages. So that was just one aspect of it, right? Started working, had to move. Well, I decided to move to Durban for better work experience. And I mean, I'm working in these environments and it starts getting toxic because, workplaces are sometimes toxic. They are. So I just want to get back onto the train. We're talking about the fact that I've prayed for this degree and I got in. I get a job, and even me getting a job, I had to pray. I prayed for a job, right? And for me to get the job that I did, even in rural KZN, was such an intense process of prayer and grace, because in 1 week I called 50 different hospitals. I didn't have a job at the end of my first year. The post that I was supposed to get, they gave to someone else. So I needed to get myself a new job. And so in the kind of 2 weeks that I wasn't working, I was like, okay, I need to look for a job. The second week, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on a mission. I'm going to find a post. And I called, I called like 50 different hospitals looking for a post. 40 of them were in KZN, because I actually decided at some point, I think I started on the Monday, and on the Wednesday I was like, actually let me go to KZN, because I've always wanted to be near the beach, ocean, that life. I tell my parents, hey, I'm applying for posts in KZN. I don't know a single soul in KZN. By the way, I don't know anyone. I've only been there with my parents, and it's just like a random concept. By the Friday, I had found a hospital that had a post. I had had an interview and gotten an acceptance by 4 p.m. on Friday, and they were like, start work on Monday. Can you imagine how crazy that is? Literally, I had to jump. I jumped, but I'm the kind of person who's not afraid of change and who takes opportunities when they come. So I packed up things in my car on the Monday morning, drove to KZN. What was meant to be a 4 to 5 hour drive took me like 10 hours. Found myself in Nkandla at some point, and my parents were panicking because there's a certain, let me not go into detail, but basically I had to just get out of there because they didn't want me to get married. So yeah. Okay, I'm being dodgy, but anyway, I go work in rural KZN. It's amazing. Then I work in Durban, get this experience. Prayed for the job, right? I'm working now, but one thing you should know is that in speech therapy, the job progression is not like in corporate where you can climb this ladder. In speech therapy, you kind of do your community service and then you become I'm gonna call it a normal speech therapist. And then if you're lucky, you get a chief speech therapy post, which is like the ultimate goal. And I had put that on my vision board. I was like, God, oh, by the way, the timelines. So you do your concert for 1 year, then you have to work for 10 years before they can upgrade you from a grade 1 speech therapist, is what they call the entry level one, to a grade 2 speech therapist. But I mean, that's like a salary increment of yeah. And so if you get a chief post, then at least that's like, the biggest leap that you're going to get. And so you work 10 years, this is in KZN. In other provinces like Gauteng, you work 5 years, and then you work another 5 years and you get promoted. So in KZN, you work 10 years and then you work another 10 years. So you can imagine how slow your pay progression is, your growth. And I was like, I need to get a chief post because God, I cannot be caught sitting waiting for 10 years before I get a promotion. So I work for 7 years. Only on my 7th year did I get that post. And this is significant because in my 7 years of working, there had only been about 4 posts for speech therapy that were released, chief posts. And I applied for all of them and I didn't get any of them. But the final one that I applied for, in my 7th year of working, in the 7th month of that year, which is July, on the 7th day, I get a phone call saying, hey, this post you applied for, you've gotten it. Can we send you an offer letter? Give us your email. So I send them and I get this thing, and it's a miracle because why this number thing is so significant. So if you think about the march around the walls of Jericho, the Israelites were instructed by God that so Jericho actually represents the promises of God that are going to be delivered to us. And so in the case of the Israelites, they had to march for 7 days around these walls of Jericho that wouldn't come down. And on the 7th day, they had to march 7 times around the walls. And on the 7th time, they had to blow their horns and make a joyful sound, and the walls of Jericho would come down. So here I was, for 7 years, I'd been marching around these walls of Jericho, which is looking for an upgrade, so to say, looking for a better position, looking to get out of these toxic spaces that I was working in. And then in the 7th month, which is the 7th day that the Israelites were walking, on my 7th day, which is on their 7th time around the walls came down, and that's when I got my acceptance letter. And it's crazy because for 7 years I've been praying myself out of this career as a speech therapist, right? I mean, I identified deeply with it, but I've been praying myself out of it because there were just so many unpleasant events related to it. And also I was on this journey of trying to be a medical student that just wasn't breaking through. And so it reminded me that, sometimes you're praying for things, and you need to know this, that sometimes you're praying for things, but when God brings you that gift that you've prayed for, it doesn't come packaged the way that you thought it would. And now all of a sudden this blessing feels like a curse, because that's what was happening to me. I get into this degree, the studying feels like a curse, but it was something that I prayed for. It was an answered prayer. I start working, the environments are toxic, and it's very catty, and that feels like a curse. And I'm not getting this chief post, which is the only next level. But it was an answered prayer for me to get a job. And then finally I get this chief post, and it's the most unbelievable thing. I started working as a chief speech therapist, and I was always like, my aim is to be the person who I wanted to work with, to be the best colleague, to be the best manager, supervisor, that I didn't really have. I've had an amazing supervisor in my first year of working. She was incredible. After that, things were just no comment. So I was on this, I had my aim was just to be that aspiration, that person who I wanted to work under. And I really did my best, and I worked with incredible team of people in my year and a half, about a year and a half as a chief speech therapist. And then the next prayer item gets answered, and I'm just like, God, wait, what's going on here? I've just gotten into this position. I'm the youngest person on my team, but for me it was late. It felt like, God, I've been waiting for this thing. And here's the timelines again, what you think might be late. My peers are getting promoted earlier than me, and then I'm not getting into this medicine program, and I'm thinking, oh, my time is going. And then by the time I get in, I'm already over 30. So that's another thing. People are like, oh, I'm already in my 30s. I should be, settling, moving towards retiring at 40, right? And I'm just starting a new degree. So I think people just get caught up in this notion that things have to be perfect in a certain way. Look, I was living my life. I could almost say I had ticked all the boxes. I was living comfortably in my house with my husband and my child, and things were easy, and I'm in my 30s, and according to society, maybe I ticked those boxes. But now here I am, unemployed, a full-time student in another city, trying to establish a community, and things have just flipped over completely. But I'm where I'm supposed to be, because this is where the blessing is right now in this season. This is what I've prayed for. And we need to be very conscious of the things that we pray for, because God will give you the desires of your heart. And so on that note, I just want to say that every good thing, every bad thing, every closed door, every rejection that you've had in your life has all been to bring you to this point where you are at peace with who you are and where God has placed you. But also just to know that if He put it in you, if He put that dream in your heart, He will bring it to completion. Our answered prayers will not come in the package that we thought they would. They come with a bunch of when you buy something and they're like, oh, you're gonna get a free gift, a surprise free gift. Our answered prayers usually come with that surprise free gift, and you don't know what it's gonna be or how it's gonna affect your life, but it's for you and you'll get through it. So that's it from me and my story. Remember, you're on your own timeline. You're never too old. And I still identify as a speech therapist the same way you identify as he or she or him or they or whatever you identify as. I'm a speech therapist, always and forever. And I love you guys. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. Till the next one.